Hello, and welcome again to The Problem with Everything. This is episode 9. It's looking at Deceit, part 2 of our sub-series on deceit. It occurred to me that in part 1 I mentioned Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who wrote the Social Contract and introduced that idea into political theory, and he defined it very well. It was a very considered topic because it relates so much to the well-being of all of humanity. Now, what Jean-Jacques Rousseau said is that those that govern a society actually express what he called the general will of society. And he said that insofar as they do that, they're not actually particular citizens anymore. They're actually operating from a different point of view, so to speak. Now, he said that the particular point of view of the general will, as opposed to the particular will, so that which the governors, in order to adhere to the social contract, are required to abide by, the general will is actually defined by the greatest good. And I guess you remember part 1 of this sub-series on deceit. We mentioned the difference between the greatest good, that good which there is none other greater than, and the idea of a greater good, because there's no end to greater goods. I'm pretty sure we've discussed that a couple of times. But the greatest good admits of only one thing, because good is a pretty firm concept if you can actually grasp it beyond subjectivity. And the way that Rousseau approached that was through, probably even before the term intersubjectivity had been arrived at, but he was thinking from the general will, and he defined the greatest good in indisputable terms. He said the greatest good is a pair of things. That pair is made up of liberty and equality. That's all. If you can maximize both of those two things, and to do so, as we know from computer science, there's a problem with double optimization. You can't actually make both of them maximally optimal, as if you were just optimizing for one of them. If you optimize for both, you have a trade-off, and that makes them sit in balance. If you increase liberty for a small subsection of society, like say diplomats, allowing them to travel during a time when other people are not allowed to travel. If you increase their liberty, then the quality goes down and down and down, and then suddenly you find the people giving you the finger, so to speak. But if and then you say, oh, that's actually, we need more equality, because otherwise they're going to do that French Revolution thing that happened and chop off everyone's heads or something, and so then you've got that V sign that we sort of think of two fingers, or the peace sign, which is actually LBJ's, I think, V for victory from Vietnam. But the point is, we're trying to talk about deceit, and that's actually one of the things about deceit that I wanted to address today. It sort of points out that mechanism by which deceit operates, which is ignorance. Because nowadays most of us, including myself until recently, are ignorant of the social contract. Like, we hear the term bandied about by politicians that should know better than misusing bloody tidbits and sound bites. But they don't, and so they misuse the social contract as a tidbit, as a soundbite. They sort of say, you're bound by the social contract, and they grab whatever they like from it, but they don't actually consider the essay itself. They don't actually consider the author, nor his maker. So I urge you, read the social contract and learn about the greatest good, liberty and equality. Ignorance is a problem, and ignorance can easily make one gullible, so that if you see some talking head such as this one or another one saying some sort of shit, you might just say, well, I can't be fucked researching it, I'll just take their word for it. And even when someone says, I'll take your word for it, nowadays that's like, it's not quite irony, it might be sarcasm, it might be just like, whatever, so I don't give a fuck what you say, and I'm just not going to believe you, but I'm going to deceive you and say that I'll take your word for it. But there is like this weirdness that I don't quite understand. It's like, the subtext is, oh sure, who are you to tell me what to think? but I can't be bothered engaging in rational discussion about what I think. So I'm just going to lie and tell you I'll take your word for it, and then not take your word for it, and then not even do you the decency of reaching around and researching it myself so that I can have some input into the discussion. That's sort of like what I take to be the subtext of it, but I'm a bald-headed old man and I drink onion juice sometimes, so maybe other people have a different idea. I drank onion juice once recently. I got a killer juicer from Korea, and they don't pay me anything, and I guess it's not going to hurt me if they get more business from the one person that watches this, which is me apparently. But Hurom, Hurom, A26 juicer, beautiful, so good that you just want to put absolutely anything that you find in it that's like fruit or vegetable or herb. Never flesh, never flesh of fruit, yeah. But one of the beautiful things about this juicer is you get so many nutrients absorbed into your body so easily through the liquid that they become as juice, or like a smoothie. If you put an avocado in, it's a natural smoothie, no ice, no milk. Oh, heavenly, no eggs. It really makes it easier to be vegan. And you don't even have to force yourself. You just like overjoy, if you're like me, you're overjoyed by having pineapple, mango, strawberry, blueberry, blackberry, raspberry juice with a bit of peach in it and maybe some mint or basil. And then you go really wild and you think, well, if that works so amazingly, what about kale and red cabbage and carrot and cucumber and zucchini juices, eggplant juices? I know that for a fact. And it's not bad. Capsicum juice.